Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. We are going to have a great show for you today. We are going to have some good talk, both about poll numbers for El Senor Biden, as well as our constancy, Israel, as well as we may jump into that topic that I touched on KPFT today, Medicare Advantage and AI. We have a whole lot to talk about, but you know, who runs the show? The show belongs to whom again? The show belongs to you. So if you decide to change the direction of the show, so be it. Give us a call, 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747 is the number to call in. I would love to hear your voice as well, because you know what? We want to, just like we do at KPFT in the mornings, we would love to start getting some voice calls here in the afternoons. The morning shows are vibrant. We get between 8 to 12 calls. Every now and then we get 15 to 20. I mean, it's amazing. There are times we have to go through them like machine guns, you know, but that's the name of the game. That's what we aim to do. That's what we aim to please. That's what we want to do. Anyhow, folks, give us a call, 281-823-7747. Again, el número, una vez más, it is 281-823-7747. Anyway, let me salute the peeps that are already here. Eric Hayes is in the house. How are you doing, Eric? Bridge MCP is in the house. AVQ, Senor Michael Rudman is in the house. And of course, Yvette Avery Herod. And you know what we don't have yet? We don't have these notifications going out as they should. But you know what? We are signing up for a service where we can send direct messages to phone numbers who sign up. Of course, you have to sign up. We can't just spam you. You have to sign up to say, well, Egberto, when you're going live, you can send us a message over our phones. And we're going to start doing that so that we can get the live population up. But for now, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Let's see what else we got. Lee Grant is in the house as well. Lee Grant just showed up. We have quite a few videos to show you today. Want to wait for a few more people to join in, both on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and the internet, both the other places. Let's see. Bridge says, boy, did Trump go off the rails today. Unbelievable. Well, not really. Michael Ronan says, apologies, currently watching a different live stream. Catch you tomorrow. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm hurt that you decided to go to a different live stream over our Politics Done Right, given that you're a mainstay here at Politics Done Right. But I won't take it to heart. I'll say maybe you just wanted a change. Eric says, let me figure this out. There's a county bond proposal that was to provide funds for Harvey repair and needed county road work that was passed by the voters to equally distribute the funds to all 4 precincts. And now the 3 Democratic precincts only want to give 1 Republican precinct 17% of the funds, although they have 47% of the county roads, plus most of the river flooding. When you bait and switch like that, it's an embezzlement. Not really. You may say that they have most of the county roads, but do they have most of the roads? Houston is a very big city, and the county is responsible for the entire city and extraterritorial areas. So I'm in 17% probably because of what he has is 17% of the roads. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but it's something worth looking up. All right, let's see what else. Maywood is in the house. It was great seeing you guys, Maywood. Eric Hayes, Bridge MCP at our Ask Egberto Anything. We had a good time, substantive discussions, etc., etc., etc. Now, it turns out that we are being throttled. As you can see, the messages aren't going out to say what the program that we're having. I wonder why. Throttling is a bad thing. And you know it's bad when it seems like YouTube is throttling you more so than Facebook, even though Facebook is doing it, seems to be doing it as well. I don't hate. I disagree with exception to this guy. He's crazy. No, he's more than crazy. He's evil. Let's get it clear. Let's not try to equate Donald Trump with crazy. Donald Trump is evil. Donald Trump is demented. Donald Trump is defective. Donald Trump's parents reared somebody that had a defective personality based on how he was reared. There are just some people that were wired that way because of their environment, and he grew up in a lousy environment. We don't need to have any kinds of protection or defense for Donald Trump. But anyhow, let's go ahead and start today with Stephanopoulos and what Stephanopoulos did. Okay, Stephanopoulos had Scalise on, Steve Scalise, the guy who should have been the what is it called? The Speaker of the House. But he just threw his towel in. He said, "I can't deal with these wacos anymore." Even though it turns out that he himself would not leave waco land. As you know, one of the big things is that the House passed a bill to give Israel, I think, $14 billion additional dollars for their defense. Right? It's really for the Iron Dome and all that good stuff. But they want to pay for it out of reducing IRS agents. And you know that is going to increase the budgets because the thugs that rip us off all the time, the rich people that are thugs, not the good ones, but the ones that rip us off all the times, they are going to be able to get away with cheating us as usual, right? It is said that I think $100 and something billion a year we could collect if we just went ahead and caught the tax cheats. Well, I want you to see how this conversation went with Steve Scalise and George Stephanopoulos. It was astounding. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Talking about GOP doublespeak, George Stephanopoulos of This Week had Congressman Steve Scalise on about the aid that they are supposed to be given to Israel, the military aid that is being offset by no longer hiring the IRS agents to take care of tax fraud. Well, Steve Scalise first said, well, look, as it turns out, if you look at what the CBO said, the Congressional Budget Office says, it's gonna cost the middle class America, those making $400,000 or less, up to $4 billion more in taxes and President Biden promised that he wasn't going to do that. And, at the same time, he said, but you can't listen to the CBO when it says that the budget deficit will be increased by not hiring these guys. I want you to listen to how silly Steve Scalise sounded when confronted by George Stephanopoulos, but also that he is able to do it without feeling the shame and embarrassment that comes with such a double talk. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
As you know, this funding request that you've put through is dead on arrival in the Senate. You've tied the aid to Israel to cuts in IRS enforcement, which is designed to go after wealthy tax cheats. Why combine those two? Is the new speaker prepared to put clean funding for Israel on the floor of the House?
Well, actually, even the CBO says that some of that money would be going after low and middle income families. But at the end of the day, we passed a bill that addressed two problems that our Defense Department talks about. One, we need to get aid to Israel, and we do. But when our generals come and testify before committees like Armed Services, they say our debt is our biggest national threat, not other countries like China, Russia. They say it's our debt. We addressed both in this bill, and we got a bipartisan vote, George, and I think that's important too.
But let me just stop you. Let me just stop you right there. You say you addressed the debt. In fact, and you're the one who referenced the CBO. The CBO said that this proposal you put on the floor that you passed the House is actually going to increase the deficit, not reduce the debt.
Well, only CBO would say reducing the size of government.
Well, you just cited the CBO. That's their analysis. It's going to reduce it because you're taking away.
But the CBO said it's going to actually hit people making under $400,000 a year with $4 billion in new taxes. That violates President Biden's own pledge, by the way, that he made to low-income families. He promised he wouldn't raise their taxes. CBO said it would be a $4 billion hit to those families. At the end of the day, we passed the bill to give the aid to Israel, and it was a bipartisan vote, and it's over in the Senate. If the Senate has an issue with the bill, they can take it up. If they send it to the president, I have no doubt the president would sign that bill because that gives Israel the aid that they need, again, with a bipartisan vote out of the House.
Hey, Congressman, I'm confused. You cite the CBO approvingly when they agree with the proposal, when they agree with your conclusions, and you dismiss them when they disagree?
The CBO has been wrong on a number of fronts, and you can go look at how well that's documented. The bottom line is they do acknowledge that about $4 billion in new taxes would hit low and middle income families. That's something that violates President Biden's own promise he made during the campaign.
They also say quite explicitly it's going to increase the deficit.
Now, Steve Scalise. I tell you what is so disappointing here. First of all, Steve Scalise comes out and he says, you know what? It turns out that it's going to cost more money to the middle class if we go ahead and hire those people. Okay, that's what he says. But what he doesn't say is, I don't care who is actually committing the fraud. The tax fraud could be committed by rich people, or the tax fraud could be committed by middle class people. That middle class people are going to be billed $4 billion more in taxes. And of course, there's a whole ton of middle class folks. $4 billion for taxes they owe. That is not an increase in taxes for the middle class. It's just having people pay the amount of taxes that they have due. And if $4 billion comes from the people making $400,000 or less, that's not an increase by President Biden. That is an increase that is them paying what they're supposed to pay and not hiding from paying it. And if you want to take a look at it, here is what it says on the CBO. It says CBO confirms Inflation Act unleashes IRS audits and enforcement on families making less than $400,000. But how does it do that again? Because it bills them for the tax cheating that they did. In other words, they would have gotten away with something and they pay what they're supposed to pay. The double speak is amazing, the way these guys did it. It is amazing that in the same sentence, in the same interview, you can say, the CBO said this, so we should believe it. And then when it goes against him, the CBO is not always right. The CBO, you can't believe what the CBO says. Come on, folks. Can't you see these guys are frauds? Exactly. Can you see that they are frauds? They are frauds. They are frauds. Okay. Mike Cisak says, Biden is suffering from a form of dementia. I know my mother suffered from it. Okay. If that's what you think and that's what you want to believe, it's their choice to be wrong. That's fine. Bridge MCP says, looked at a deer in a headlight. That's exactly what he looked like. Eric A says, Mike is better than Steve would have been. Oh, really? All right. Bruce says, the posse rides again. Yeah, Bruce, you missed a good one on this weekend where you would have had a lot of input. But, again, it's my fault. I have to remind people more often. I got to promote Ask Egberto Anything more often. I just need some of your help to get folks to come out on Saturdays. I know it was a beautiful day this Saturday, so asking folks to come between 11 and 12 Central Standard Time is a bit much. But Eric did an interesting way he came to the Ask Egberto Anything. He was doing his walk on a beautiful day through his beautiful neighborhood, giving us views of the beautiful sun, the beautiful blue skies, the beautiful trees. Thank you for giving us the view while we spoke about critical issues, brother Eric Hayes. All right. And not only that, Eric Hayes, he made a lot of sense on Saturday. Didn't we have a good sense speak, Eric Hayes? Of course we did. Of course we did. All right. Ryan Zinke introduced new bill to expel Palestinians from U.S. GOP, has a racist new idea during war on Gaza. I think I saw the clip on one of the programs. E2247. Anyway, welcome aboard E2247. Mike Cisak. I don't think I saluted you guys since you made it to the program. And his buff chest. I'm going to start wondering about Bridge MCP. Bridge MCP have fallen in love with Brother Hayes' chest because she speaks about it all of the times. I hear you, Bridge MCP. All right. Lee Grant says, religion is intertwined with our culture and institutions, including the government. No way to separate them. That is not true. In fact, more than half of our founders, not that I care much about, the statements of our founders in today's reality, but much of what was said about our founders, they weren't deists, okay? They weren't Christians. I mean, we have to stop reinventing history here. There's no real strong dedication of our country to some specific religion. It's just not there. Read the Federalist Papers or everything else. religion is not a big part, was never a big part of our founding, ever. It was always about moolah, money. It was always about capital, capital. Okay? Welcome aboard. Alistair Waters is in the house. She's driving, but she's here. We don't care how you come here, driving or not, Miss Waters. And Bridge MCP laughed at the joke that I made with respect to Brother Eric's buffed chest. You know, Brother Eric likes to show us his chest. Lee Grant, Eric Lee Grant says, Lee Grant, it is on our currency, but another reason Lefty would like only electronic. That's not true, Eric. Why would you even come up, just invent that statement, brother? That's an invention. All right, Bree says they want it to be about religion, so I asked which religion. Oh, they mean Christianity, but you know, even Christianity, you'd have to ask them which brand of Christianity are they talking about. Okay, that wasn't the only stupendously silly thing that Scalise did over the weekend. Not at all. Okay, Lee Grant, the founders didn't invent Western culture, but products of it. I mean, Western culture is just an accumulation of cultures from around the world, okay? They learn stuff from China. They learn stuff from India. They learn stuff from Africa. The only thing that they hadn't done is give credit where it's due, all right? So the conquering culture, which at this point in our history, that we've had other conquering cultures, but in this point in our history, the conquering cultures simply adapted things from all over. Just look at America. America is a panacea of other people's work placed into a fabric. All right. That's why America it turns out to be pretty great, because it is made up of a whole lot of technology and everything else from other people. And you want to call that Western technology as if it is a preeminence of Westernism that created it. That's not the case at all. And the Christian religion is not inherent to Western culture at all. The Christian religion inherently is of the Middle East. Okay? So when you talk about Western religion, remember, the Western religion for the longest time was in Western culture in the Dark Ages. Didn't have societal. The Muslims, the Ottomans brought a whole lot of stuff into the fold. The Moors brought a whole lot of stuff into the fold. Please don't believe the right-wing crap that you learn. The right-wing crap is just that, crap. Anyhow, let's go to the second video with El Señor Steve Scalise continue to make a oxymoron out of himself. Check this out, and then we'll take it en el otro lado. Here we go. Congressman Ken Buck, Republican of Colorado, the 4th District, he could take it no more. He decided to quit Congress. He just couldn't deal with MAGA. He just couldn't deal with the lies. He just couldn't deal with it anymore. He participated long enough, and it was eaten at his soul. So he, in departing and given his notice that he's leaving, he really scorched the Republican Party. He really accused them of lying. He accused them of not accepting the reality that Donald Trump lost the election, that the election was actually fair and square. We have some other issues, but he said that. Well, Stephanopoulos on This Week had Steve Scalise on. And after Steve Scalise made a fool of himself on several other issues, he decided to see what Scalise thought about Ken Buck's statement. I want you to listen to this. I had to do a whole lot of cutting on the video because the bloviating just went on and on and on. And of course, didn't want you to have to suffer through all of that. But I cut it to get the essence. I didn't lose any of the implied bloviation, but you get to see the psychopathy within not only Steve Scalise, but many other Republicans that share his same fear of telling the truth. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
This week, one of your former colleagues, Congressman Ken Buck, a Republican of Colorado, said he was leaving, retiring from Congress. And here's what he said on his way out.
Our nation is on a collision course with reality, and a steadfast commitment to truth, even uncomfortable truths, is the only way forward. Too many Republican leaders are lying to America, claiming that the 2020 election was stolen.
He said that you're one of those leaders who hasn't been unequivocal in saying it was a clean election, that Joe Biden did not steal the election. Your response?
Well, Ken, I've worked with on a number of issues, including getting spending under control, getting our economy back on track. He's talked about that 2020 election as well. And you and I think, have talked about that too. At the end of the day, getting our country back on track is our focus. And that's what we're focused on right now. That's where we're moving bills out of the House to.
And you say unequivocally that the 2020 election was not stolen.
Well, what I've told you is there are states that didn't follow their laws. That is what the state constitution, the U.S. Constitution requires. I've seen in my own state where we had to send our elections commissioner to jail years ago for fraud and corruption, and we cleaned up our act in our state.
That's not what I asked. I said, can you say unequivocally that the 2020 election was not stolen?
Look, Joe Biden's president. I know you and others want to talk about 2020. We're focused on the future. We've talked about 2020 a lot. We're talking about how to get our country back on track, how to get our economy moving, how to stand up to the bad actors around the world. Xi is not slowing down in China. He's looking at Taiwan. You see what's going on in Russia. You see what Iran is doing to work with Hamas in the House.
I know that Joe Biden is president. I'm asking you a different question. Can you say unequivocally that the 2020 election was not stolen?
What I've told you, and you've seen this, there are states that didn't follow the laws that are on their books, which is what the U.S. Constitution says.
So you just refuse to say unequivocally that the 2020 election was not stolen?
So you want to keep rehashing 2020. We're talking.
I just want an answer to the question, yes or no.
Threats to this country. We've talked about this before, but again, will you acknowledge that there were states that didn't follow the actual state legislative enacted laws on their books, which the U.S. Constitution says they're supposed to do?
I know that every court that looked at whether the election was stolen said it wasn't, rejected those claims. And I asked you a very, very simple question. Now I've asked it, I think, the fifth time that you can't appear to answer. Can you say unequivocally that the 2020 election was not stolen?
I told you there were a handful of states that didn't follow their laws. The rest did.
The courts have all followed the Constitution. They all rejected the claims you just made. And I just want to say again, for the record.
Or they said there was no standing.
You cannot say that the 2020 election was not stolen. Yes or no, was the 2020 election stolen?
What I've told you is Joe Biden's the president of the United States, and right now he's failing the country on so many fronts that matter to families. We're talking about what matters to families today. You can keep talking about 2020. I'm talking about what's wrong with our country today.
Thanks for your time this morning.
I felt embarrassed for Steve Scalise. I felt embarrassed that a grown man simply cannot come out and say the truth because of the fear of a paper tiger that somehow has a cult following of which he depends on, instead of taking on the paper tiger, using that scissors and cutting it into pieces until you can finally take back your part. That's not what they want to do. They just fear and they go in circle. In the process, they hurt the country because there's still a possibility that Donald Trump could emerge as a president. I mean, as a naturalized citizen who, previous to coming here, revered the country, I would have never believed that a country like the United States of America could potentially fall. Well, it fell low enough to have elected a Donald Trump, somebody incapable of governing, somebody, well, you get it. But that the possibility exists that he could come back again. Steve Scalise, Ken Buck, all these guys were complicit. Now the paper tiger may be giving them a whole bunch of paper cuts. And paper cuts, as you know, they hurt a whole lot. Yep.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely join, folks. Join, or just hit that join button if you're on YouTube. You can also join on Facebook. You can also go to politicsdoneright.com/support to support us as best you can. All right, folks. And by the way, you can subscribe to our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. We send out our newsletter every day at 5 in the mornings for our 6 o'clock Politics Done Right on KPFT show. That's broadcast all over. So please consider doing so. Anyway, folks, Tom Zarnik says New York Times polls seemed flawed. The total percentage of Biden plus Trump does not add up to 100%. Difference represents independent individuals, suspect mostly Democrats, who have not decided who they want for president. 90% of the Republicans want Trump. Dems are much less excited about Biden. Now, I think, many believe that this will change going forward. I don't want to sit back and just wait and say, I think things are going to change organically. It won't. I want folks to go out there and campaign. I want to take the money away from the Washington consultants and put it into the grassroots. I want that money to go into all civic organizations in the ghettos, the barrios, and Appalachia to make sure that we can get the people out there who know what the pulse of the people are. Right now, those damn folks sitting down out there in their ivory towers who are polling people to determine, let's see, what is it those Latinos want, what it is those black folk want, what it is those poor white folks in Appalachia want. Let's figure that out and let's ask the question. No, you don't ask the questions. You ask them what questions you need to ask them. That's the problem. We are not asking the right questions. We are not going into the neighborhoods to talk to people and feel their pain. We're not doing that. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Anyhow, we have that. What else have we got here? Let's see. Tom C says, LOL, Eric Hayes can smell the polls all the way from the East Coast to Michigan. Right. Eddie Womack. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I don't think I've seen you here before. He says Steve Scalise is right. No, he's wrong, but you have the choice of your own beliefs. Your beliefs can also be wrong, which it is in this case. Eddie Womack also says, replying to Bridge, why don't you listen to Democrats that won't say that there's only 2 genders? I'm not even going to get into those sort of silly discussions about gender this and gender that. That is to take your eye off the ball. Womack, I want you to think about it, Womack. Think. Why would people want to concentrate on all these issues? So that we don't work on the things that matter to you, and you. That's what it's all about, Mr. Womack. So don't let them twist the ball on you, Senor Womack. I think it's time for us to use our head and start doing something known as critical thinking. Critical thinking. That is what they don't want you to do. And that's why many folks have so much problems when it's time to critically think. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead now and listen to another video. This one here. I want to go with Mehdi Hassan's video on the polling. I think you're going to like this one. Let's take a look at this one, and then we'll move on to the other subject, which is Israel. So let's go ahead and do that now, and we'll move on thereafter. Mehdi Hassan has a message for Democrats with the release of the recent polling numbers for Biden, which, to put it as kindly as I can, they were terrible. They were horrendous, but they were very understandable. Of which Mehdi Hassan has a message for Democrats. Calm down. And you know what? I'm with him up to a point. I want you to listen to him, and then we'll take it on the other side.
It's November the 5th, 2023, which means exactly a year from now, November the 5th, 2024, Americans will go to the polls to pick their president. And it looks almost certain that once again, they'll be picking between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. A choice that Americans are saying in poll after poll that they do not want. They don't want a rerun of 2020. They don't want Democratic and Republican candidates with the names Biden and Trump. But here we are. And here's the bad news for Team Biden in particular. If the election were held not a year from now, but today, the twice impeached, 4 times indicted Donald J. Trump would win the Electoral College with over 300 votes, easily defeating President Biden. That's according to a new poll out today from the New York Times and Siena College, which shows Biden losing to Trump in 5 of the 6 key battleground states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. The president is ahead only in Wisconsin and only by 2 percentage points there. It's worth noting that Joe Biden carried all 6 of these states back in 2020. But that's not all. The new poll also points to several other glaring liabilities for the president, including his age. 71% of voters surveyed say Biden, who will turn 81 later this month, is too old to be an effective president. That includes a remarkable 54% of his own supporters. The same doesn't apply, weirdly, to 77-year-old Donald Trump. Only 39% of the overall electorate say that Trump is too old to hold office, with just 19% of his supporters sharing that view. Another issue hurting Biden is the economy. Voters by a 59% to 37% margin trust Trump over Biden on economic issues. That's the largest gap of any issue surveyed in that poll. That's despite the fact that just last week we learned that strong consumer spending drove the US GDP to its biggest rise in nearly 2 years, growing 4.9%. And right now, unemployment is at one of its lowest rates for 50 years. But people don't seem to care in the polling. There's also growing concerns over President Biden's mental fitness. According to the poll, 62% of voters say the president does not have the mental sharpness to be effective. And yet, believe it or not, only 44% of voters believe the same of Donald Trump. However, Trump's declining mental acuity is kind of hard to ignore. Here he is just last night in Florida delivering yet another incoherent, rambling, mad speech.
Many, many terrorists are coming in. Thousands of middle-aged men are coming in. Young men are coming in. Everyone's saying, how come they're all so young and so strong? And they're coming from China. Everything's a lie. The whole thing is a lie. The whole election was a lie. Why would I do a debate when Christie, sir, I'm sorry, he is not a fat pig, okay, this man? He is not a fat pig. No, it's true. And you can't use the term fat. You're allowed to use the word pig, but not fat.
He sounds totally mentally fit to be president to me. But perhaps the most stark finding from that new poll from the Times is this. Biden trails Trump by 5 points nationally, but when voters were asked about a hypothetical race involving not Biden, but an unnamed generic Democrat, that candidate actually leads Trump by 8 points. That's a 13-point swing. So to call these poll results anything other than savage for the president of the United States, for the Democratic Party, and let's be honest, for the future of American democracy, would be an understatement. To pretend things are fine and will be fine is mad. Having said all that, let me say again tonight, as I have said many times before on this show, we also do need to calm down a bit, get some perspective, especially historical perspective. Yes, the polls are bad for the sitting president, but we are still 1 year, exactly 1 year out from the election, 12 whole months. The Biden campaign for re-election hasn't yet fully launched. The Trump criminal trials, 4 of them, haven't yet started. And we know that incumbent presidents like Barack Obama and Ronald Reagan also trail their expected opponents at this stage in their first terms too, only to emerge victorious a year later. We also know that Biden's own poor approval ratings didn't really hurt Democrats in the midterms either. Remarkably, they held on to the Senate and prevented a red wave in the House. They did it by focusing on abortion rights and voting rights, which they can and presumably will do again next year. And in the meantime, Trump is giving Democrats ample ammo to use against him almost daily.
Yes, Democrats who are concerned about Donald Trump taking the lead in the polls right now, responsible Republicans who are concerned about Donald Trump being in the lead right now, independents who are concerned that Republicans, that Donald Trump is in the lead right now, really, as Mehdi Hassan has to say, calm down. Because what you have is 12 months to go ahead and undo all that, or to do all that wasn't done to make sure, not that Americans know what's, how the economy really is, etc. Because you know what? Americans are living it. And in as much as employment, we're at near full employment, in as much as inflation is coming down, in as much of all these things are occurring, we have still allowed the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the wealthy business owners, we have really allowed them to extract our wealth, extract every gain that we've had. We've allowed them to take it away. So, in effect, what we need to say is, as Brother Hassan has said, calm down. And now, understand what Americans are going through. Yes, numero uno. Numero dos. Let it be known that you have a fix for what they're going through. It is time to go outright, not only on Trump for what he did with giving all these tax breaks to his wealthy friends, but at the same time, his wealthy friends are now reaping the rewards of inflation, reaping the rewards of all we did for them during COVID. But we also have to go ahead and let them know that the time of the wealthy getting by on the backs of the poor and the middle class will be mitigated. When they talk about give the people hope, it's not just give the people hope, is give them a pathway to that hope being realized. And if Democrats do that, and they can, they have probably 8 months to do that. And I mean, if you forget about your ivory tower consultants and you start working with the grassroots and you make these things that you are going to do for society organic from within, from the grassroots, then you'll succeed. Because you know who knows about grassroots? You know who is nurturing every single demographic, every single group of folk? The Republicans are. The MAGA folks are. They're talking to everybody. Yeah, they're losing most, but they're winning enough, including, if this poll is to be believed, 22% of the Black population and a large percentage of the Latino population, etc. If that is to be believed, again, what they're doing is they're working the grassroots. They are working the grassroots, and that is what Democrats have to do. Work the grassroots, give that pathway to hope being realized. Give that pathway to hope that will be realized, which is what we need to do. So, I mean, absolutely. So, okay, continuing with the stream, we got Tom Cernick has a new limerick that I didn't read over before, so I'm going to try to read it first pass with the right beat. So here we go. Tom Cernick's new limerick. Cheating people to Trump and kin is just a great sport. Till one day they all got hauled into a New York court. Their defense being flawed, they're guilty of fraud. Presidential re-election may be Trump's last resort. Hey, it was so well written, it wasn't all that difficult to get the beat right, Mr. Zornick. Thank you so kindly. I enjoyed that limerick. Folks, check out his limerick, and, soon we're going to be talking a whole lot about that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Eric K says, too many free things and can't keep up either. Look at the depth. That is your answer. Too many free things. Do you get free stuff? I don't get free stuff. I work my, bejesus off. I don't get free stuff. Even folks that get welfare don't get free stuff. Most of them. They're trying to make a living. You know who gets a lot of free stuff? Rich people. Because a lot of them pay their employees less money than they are able to live on, in which case we, the people, have to pay the taxes to give the folks welfare, to pay them to help with their monies that they should have to live. They're not getting it for free. We've created an economy that for a large percentage of people, they make less than what it takes to live on. We give them welfare and we pay for it because the corporations don't do their job. So let's get real. Let's get real. How many of those 8 million people have jobs that are paying less than they can live on? Please tell me. That's what it's all about. A society should be able to take care of its own. All right, let's go to the last video of the day, my brothers and my sisters. And this one is about Israel now. And I want you guys to listen to Bernie. I did some good cuts in this one to make sure I got the essence of his entire message. Listen to what Bernie has to say. Let's get busy. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is the perfect spokesperson for this Palestinian, well, actually, this Israeli-Hamas-Palestinian issue. I mean, he pretty much has an important statement for Israel. Stop the bombing. And let's really get serious about humanity and the humane handling of this situation. I want you to listen to Bernie, and then let's take it on the other side.
You've been critical of Israel's response recently. How do you think Israel should be responding?
Well, this is what you got. It's, I think, clear to most people. What Hamas did, and Hamas is an awful terrorist organization, is they slaughtered 1,400 people in cold blood. Israel has a right to defend itself. But what Israel does not, in my view, have a right to do is to kill thousands and thousands of innocent men, women, and children who had nothing to do with that attack. So the immediate concern, to my mind, is we have got to stop the bombing now. You had over 600,000 people pushed out of their homes. Where are they going? They're staying in United Nations facilities, overcrowded. There's not enough water. There's not enough food. There's not enough medicine, not enough fuel. You got a humanitarian disaster. It has to be dealt with right now.
What you're saying about the lack of food and water and so forth, I think that most people in the West, certainly the U.S., believes that that is because Hamas is hoarding it. And the other question is, how does Israel destroy Hamas?
It's not just that Hamas is hoarding it. They are. It's more than that. That's what Israelis' policy has been.
Okay.
So it's a combination of factors.
How should Israel destroy Hamas post-attack on these innocent civilians in Israel without killing innocent men, women, and children when Hamas is hiding behind them and putting them in danger? How does that work?
That is exactly the right question to be asked the military experts, of which I am not one. But clearly, Israel has a right to defend itself. Hamas has sworn that's what its goal is to destroy Israel. They got to deal with that. But there got to be a better way than killing thousands of men, women, and children. So once again, the immediate concern is you got to have a pause in the bombing. You got to take care of the immediate disaster. Israel's got to change its charging. Let me just say this. The United States of America provides $3.8 billion every year to Israel. We have a right. Israel can do what they want. They're an independent country. But we have a right to say, sorry, you need a new military strategy. Go after Hamas. But that means, do not kill innocent men, women, and children.
You mentioned money. There is going to be a measure before you relatively soon for the House passed more than $14 billion. And there is going to be at least some version of that in the Senate. Will you support that? Or will you put conditions on it?
Well, we'll see what the bill looks like. But I think it's terribly important that as we debate that to say to Israel, you want this money, you got to change your military strategy. The other point is we have to give hope to the Palestinian people. They were living before October 7th in a disastrous situation in Gaza, 75% youth unemployment, massive poverty. And right now in Israel, you're having the Netanyahu government, an extreme right-wing government with racists aboard, trying to make it impossible for a two-state solution in the West Bank. They're killing settlers there. So what we need is the world to come together to give hope to the Palestinians. We need a two-state solution, and we need to have many of the very wealthy countries in the region, the United Arab Republic, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. They are extraordinarily wealthy.
Yes,
work with the United States, work with the community in order to provide some hope and decency and freedom to to the Palestinian people, which Hamas will never do.
Bernie nails it. He nails the Netanyahu government for what they are, a right-wing racist government that really is harming its people. Yes, Hamas is to blame for the 1,400 Israelis that got killed, but that is under the tutelage of El Señor Benjamin Netanyahu. Absent Benjamin Netanyahu, absent the right wing in Israel, the likelihood of Hamas building the oomph to do what they did, the 1,400 kill, that would not have occurred. So yes, Hamas perpetrated the terrorist act. And what we have is a Netanyahu who inched it on, first of all, with his tacit support in the past of Hamas through third parties, but also with his hard line stance in public. He pretty much used Hamas to do something that he couldn't do absent that very horrendous terrorist act have. And if you listen to what's occurring behind the scenes, you understand exactly what Netanyahu and the IDF is doing right now, using this particular situation to do something really, really bad. And you know who sees it very well? El Señor Senator Bernie Sanders. And that's why you hear him constantly sticking to the two-state solution and bringing up that you are going to give the Palestinians hope with a two-state solution. Because absent that, we know what Netanyahu is trying right now. We know Netanyahu wants to destroy Gaza in such a manner to make it inhabitable completely. And that way, throw the people out to the Sinai. Look, it's in writing. There are documents that have been found that shows that is what they want. You take a listen to what many of these right wingers, we've seen their videos all over the internet, where they come out and they say, this is it. This is what they really want to do. Get rid of the Palestinians in Gaza. Of course, they mean the West Bank as well, but that's what they want to do now. And they're using this to do that. I mean, I wish the Israelis, as we did when Trump was in power here, I wish the Israelis would take their government back. Take it away from the Netanyahus. Take it away from the right-wing racists inside of Israel, and let's go ahead and get done what needs to be done. Let's protect the Israeli citizens. Let's protect the Palestinian citizens. Let's get out of this stage of annihilation that we have on the part of the IDF. That is absolutely so. And hey, you're right about that, Bruce. As you know, I was a delegate for Bernie Sanders in Philadelphia in 2016. It was a great event. I mean, we had to put out a lot of fires to prevent that convention from going crazy, because a lot of the Bernie folks, we were pissed off, but some of us were pissed off, but trying to keep the calm for the betterment of or to get the right thing done. I think that's why my Kingwood area Democrats made me a delegate, even though they were mostly supporting Hillary Clinton. But they were kind to make it happen for me to go to Philadelphia for that. Anyhow, welcome aboard, Melissa Bowie. Melissa is one of our faves and fave supporters out there at KPFT as well. She always have a lot to say. Love to hear. Hey, Melissa, you always call into the show at KPFT. You should call in here as well, 281-823-7747, because Bridge MCP is tired of calling in. She says, Egberto, let other people call in. Everybody here want to chat. They don't want to call, even though we're trying to build this platform. Come on, I just invested. Bruce suggested that I invest in bringing electronics, telephones to the system, and we did. So, folks, give us a call. 281-823-7747. All right. What else have we got? The number is 281-823-7747. You asked me to say it again? I said it again. I assume that means we're going to hear from Melissa in a minute. Anyway, folks, we are going to continue here. If you have any comments that you want to say, feel free to give us a call as well. Mike Cisak is in the house. What else have we got here? What else? Did we care about Ukrainians getting jobs that flew first class here? No. The story about Ukraine being victims versus Palestinians being victims, it's an interesting scenario, a very interesting scenario, and something that we have to. And if you listen to Bernie, what Bernie had to say, Bernie was clear about that. Well, welcome, Melissa. So you did call. How are you doing today, Mademoiselle Bowie?
Hi. Hello, Egberto. How are you today?
I am
enjoying your show.
I am glad that you're enjoying the show.
Yes, but I have a quick question.
Yes.
The chat group was talking about 8 million. I came in late. What's the 8 million number about?
Okay, the 8 million. Well, we happen to be talking about not we. Our good friend here, Eric Hayes, is talking about free giveaways, and he's stating that 8 million people get free stuff in this country. In other words, welfare and all that kind of stuff. And my contention is that I don't know very few people that are users in this country. Even people on welfare, I find, try to work hard. Go ahead.
I don't know. Tell Eric Hayes that that's. I don't know if that's true, because there was a flat line like of aid here in Texas. Like everybody got deleted. Like everybody had to start over on their application. So it was like a statewide, and they even put that on their site that they're canceling everyone's Medicaid, fast, TANF or what, not fast, but TANF,
right, or
that food supplement. So you had to reapply. So I don't know what he's talking about, because they had to get everybody who was on the system, off the system, so they could put the people who they flew in here on the system. So he tripping on that one.
Melissa, let me say something that a lot of people, it's we don't have a problem dogging the poor. In other words, look, you and I know, and everybody else here, Bridge MCP and everybody in our chat understands that there are people who will always use the system. They don't want to work and they just use the system. But that's not most people at all. I found through experience, Melissa, that the people that abuse the system the most, the people that get the most free stuff in our country, are not the poor people that are getting peanuts. It's the rich people.
Yes, because you have to manipulate the system in order to continue on it, and then that's not poor. That's not poor people, because they give up at the denied part. Nobody wants to go and fill out appeal and then appeal and appeal. But you play with me, I will definitely.
And you should. I don't know if you listened to the call that we had on KPFT, where the woman called in and talked about her mother on having Medicare Advantage, and they denied her and she called back to tell us on the show that she was happy that we had the show on Medicare Advantage, because when she called back, she spoke about what she learned from our show. And notice I said our show, because the show belongs to you, Melissa. The show belongs to Eric. The show belongs to Bridge, everybody. She said after she told him about that, they quickly approved her loan. I mean, not a loan, the request. And I think I know why. It's not that we did anything. What it is that she was at this point where she wasn't completely educated in Medicare Advantage. She was now educated in Medicare Advantage, and that's why we are here, Melissa.
Yes, it's about talking and knowing what you're talking about when you call to dispute your denial claim. But most average poor people are not, they see a deny, they're not going to call and try to appeal or show up on that date or whatever to get their information gathered together. So people who are abusing the system, which I doubt, very high likely, that's definitely people who are definitely know how to scheme and know how to scam, right?
Exactly.
That's not the average poor person. But I called about the park. There was a park, random off subject. I know you got to go, but I called about the parks and about the fact that our urban community parks are barricaded around. We don't have access to them, but now they're under this conservancy program. So I would like you to to hear something about that tomorrow when I'm listening. If you can find out about that. Why?
Okay, I tell you what. If you have a link or anything, Melissa, just send it to me so that I can pick it up. Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Thank you. You have a great day. And thank you for calling. Thank you for listening. And thank you for supporting. Anyway, Bridge MCP says she is right, Egberto. Everyone is usually denied at first and don't know how to get it after that. Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. I get the smartest callers on the planet, Bridge. I've got, all of our people are really into it. And all we have to do is go out there and continue to push the message, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, it's 3:59. Which means I've got 1 minute. I'm going to go over by 1 minute because you know what time it is. It's time for me to say, guys, how can you support Politics Done Right to make sure that we can continue doing this all over the place? You know how you can do that? You can support us by going to politicsdoneright.com/support, politicsdoneright.com/support, and I'm putting that in the feed right now, politicsdoneright.com/support. It has all the different options that you have to support the program. You can also, and I'm asking you, please subscribe to our newsletter. Look, it's free to subscribe to my newsletter, but you can also become a paid subscriber. Paid subscribers get a chance to read all of my current books and all of my subsequent books. Okay. Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Right now, there are only 2 books that are ready to read online. I am going to put the rest up there before the end of the year. I expect to have all 5 of my books up there before the end of the year. And next year, I'm hoping that I get enough time off, meaning on the weekends, to write 3 books that I've already started. 3 books that I've already started. I hope to get those out as well. These are not going to be huge books. These are going to be, on a shorter order. But again, the idea here is this is how we get our message out. This is how we get our message out. So anyway, I got to get out of here. I want to ask you again, please support us by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. Sign up for our newsletter. Become a paid supporter of our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. You guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.